Come buy me a hawk and a hound, and a beautiful Gilead to ride, for I have been weeping all this night long, and no one to lay by my side. Here's adieu to old England, farewell. Here's adieu to 10,000s of woes. If the world had been ended before we were born, our sorrows we ne'er should have known. Once I could sleep in that bed that was made of the finest of down, but now I am glad of a bunch of cold straw to keep my poor bones from the ground. Here's adieu to old England, farewell. Here's adieu to 10,000s of woes. If the world had been ended before we were born, our sorrows we ne'er should have known. Once I could eat of that bread that was made of the finest of wheat, but now I am glad of an old mouldy crust to give my poor body a treat. Here's adieu to old England, farewell. Here's adieu to 10,000s of woes. If the world had been ended before we were born, our sorrows we ne'er should have known. Once I could drink of that beer, the very best beer in the glass, but now I am glad of the water so cold to keep my poor tongue from the thirst. Here's adieu to old England, farewell. Here's adieu to 10,000s of woes. If the world had been ended before we were born, our sorrows we ne'er should have known. Once I could ride in that coach with the silvery tops flying high, but now I'm condemned in that prison so strong, and the Lord only knows if I'll die. Here's adieu to old England, farewell. Here's adieu to 10,000s of woes. If the world had been ended before we were born, our sorrows we ne'er should have known. If the world had been ended before we were born, our sorrows we ne'er should have known. Come Buy Me a Hawk and a Hound was sung to Vaughan Williams by Mrs. Mary Humphreys, not that Mary Humphreys, different one, on April the 25th, 1904. Now, she learned most of her songs from her grandparents, so we know that these songs go back quite a long way. And in fact, although you might think that this is about transportation, the song actually dates from before transportation was implemented. So this is a case where the prisoner is waiting to hear if he's going to be hanged. But Vaughan Williams came to be collecting songs from an old lady in Ingrave almost by accident. He grew up in Surrey after his father died, because the family moved there. He knew the Broadwoods, and he was interested in folk song, as were many young musicians and composers around about that time, not just in England but throughout Europe. So you have Sibelius and Grieg, you've got Smetana, Chopin, you've got Rimsky-Korsakov, you've got this was a movement of young Turks in a way, who were looking at different music. There was a feeling that it seemed slightly odd that people should be trained in German and Italian music and not in English music. Vaughan Williams was particularly interested in church music and in folk music. And he was lecturing on the history of folk song. He believed at that time that folk song was hardly sung at all these days. But when he went to lecture in Brentwood in 1903, he came across Georgina Heatley, who was the youngest daughter of the rector of Ingrave. And she was aware that there was that songs were being sung in her village, and she was passing notes to Vaughan Williams during the course of these lectures about songs that she knew of and people who sang them. It wasn't until December of that year that he went to tea at the rectory, and the following day. So he went to tea on the Saturday. On the Sunday, he met Charles Potiphar, he met Mrs. Horsnell, he met George Sewell, and somebody else, I forgot. Yeah, somebody else that day. Oh, Emma Turner, of course. Yeah, silly me. Yeah. And he collected, I think, 11 songs from these 5 people on the first day. I'm not good at numbers. I've got it written down, but not here. I get flustered. So on the Sunday, he visited Charles Potiphar in his cottage in Rectory Lane, which is, as you can see, just down the road from the rectory. And Charles Potiphar sang 7 songs that day. And the first of those songs was the strange and haunting Bushes and Briars. And Vaughan Williams said, an old man began to sing and put all my thoughts about folk song at rest, because he realised that, that folk song and folk music was still alive. The third song that Mr. Potiphar sang that day was a version of the Sheffield Apprentice, which we're about to do for you now, a powerful song about entrapment. It was the first song we performed together, and it's the reason why we call ourselves Potiphar's Apprentices, because we felt we had so much to learn from Charles Potiphar. And you want to say that?
We're going to do that now.
We're going to do that now.
Yeah. Normally when Sue gets to the bit, it says an old man began to sing. I usually go, "How do?" at that point, but I missed my cue there.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's interesting that the story of. I think Charles Potter was supposed to be illiterate, but I'm convinced that he would have known the story of Potiphar in the Bible and Potiphar's wife, which is also a story of entrapment, like the song Sheffield Apprentice is a story of entrapment. So, it's a sort of a mark for the sophistication of these apparently illiterate guys who seem so kind of wise and deep in their learning about song, really. Okay? I was brought up in Sheffield, place of high degree. My parents doted upon me, they had no child but me. I roamed around for pleasure, just where my fancy led, till I was bound apprentice She flew into a passion and turned away from me, saying by him who had made her, revenged she would be. A gold ring from her finger as she was passing by, she slipped it in my pocket, and by it I must die. And so before the justice I was brought, and there before the justice to answer for my fault. Long time I pleaded innocent, but all to no avail. She swore so false against me, I was condemned to jail. On the day of execution, and on that fateful day, I prayed the people around me, oh pray come pity me. Don't laugh at all my downfall, as I bid the world adieu. Farewell, my dearest Polly, I die for love of you.
Vaughan Williams used that tune for a hymn because he was at that time the musical director of the New English Hymnal, and he used a fair number of folk tunes for hymns. And looking around, I think most of us may have grown up singing tunes from versions of the New English Hymnal. So when I first went to folk clubs, I was hearing songs that I knew I'd never heard before, and yet often the tunes were familiar, or the stars, the conventions were familiar. It was really, really important that he used those tunes. And there's a couple of people over there who know all about the tune of the Sheffield Apprentice, because he called it Ingrave. And Mike and Kathy were involved in an enterprise many years ago where we walked the bounds, didn't we? Yes.
You dressed up as Mrs. Humphrey.
No, do you mind? I was Emma Turner.
Oh, were you?
Yes, cheek.
Just get that guitar right.
Yeah. So, on that same day, he was introduced to Emma Turner, who was the maid at the rectory, and presumably Georgina Heatley would have heard her singing as she did her work. She was 19, and one of the songs that she sang on that day to Vaughan Williams was Jessie's City. I think it's a really, really interesting song because it's made up of 3 other songs. It's this thing where singers could create their own songs, often unconsciously, by you've got a tune from here, a verse from here, a verse from here. You create a narrative. And this seems to be what's happened with Jessie City. And 2 of the verses in Jessie City, when I first came across this song, it was recognition, which is what Vaughan Williams talks about when you hear folk songs, that it's recognition. And for me, the recognition was quite literal, because my mother used to sing 2 of those verses in a different song. So that was it meant a lot to me, and he used that tune also in the New English Hymnal. That one was called Herongate, and I think the third thing that must have meant so much to him about that song is that he was very, very fond of Died for Love songs. And this has that classic verse at the end, the floating verse, dig me a grave, long, wide and deep. Pardon?
Etc.
Etc. Yes. So let's see if after all that we will do Jessie City. Right,
Ready?
Yeah. In Jessie City, oh, there did dwell a postman boy I loved so well. 'Twas he that stole my heart away, and now with me he will not stay. There is an inn in this same town where my love goes and sits himself down. He sits this young girl on his knee and tells her tales he used to tell me. Oh, it's grief to me, and I'll tell you for why. Because she has more gold than I, but given time her gold shall fly, and she shall be as poor as I. I went upstairs to make my bed, and nothing to my mother said. Oh, daughter, daughter, pray tell to me. Oh, daughter, what is the matter with thee? Oh, mother, you do not know what grief and sorrow come from joy. Go get a chair and set me down, and pen and ink to write it down. Her father, he came home that night, saying, where, oh, where has my daughter gone? He went out and cut her down, and found this note pinned on her gown. Oh, what a foolish maid was I, to hang myself for a postman boy. Go dig a grave, both long, wide and deep, put a marble stone at my head and feet, and at my breast place a turtle dove, to show the world that I died for love. I find it particularly touching that she sang The Postman Boy, because it's usually a sailor. So that may have been particular for her. The verses that my mother sang were about the man comes home at night, and I always used to think that, because she sang sailor in that, and I always used to think that was a bit strange, because I knew my dad was a sailor. Anyway, yeah, I've got the numbers here. I misremembered it. 14 songs on the first day from 4 singers, as well as some children's songs. And he made repeated visits to Ingrave and surrounding villages during 1904, and then again he came back in 1906, and he collected in all about 116 songs from Essex from about 23 singers, and we can't hope to cover the range of that today, although so we've only got about 75 more songs to record. And yeah, so but the ones we've done so far have all been a bit serious, a bit dark.
Yeah, well, you know where you are with folk music,
Yeah.
don't you?
But,
these people look educated enough then.
But he collected a few songs from Mr. Harris, a farmer of Great Bursted, or was it Little Bursted?
Little Bursted.
Little Bursted.
Yes.
And this is a
Mr.
piece
Harris.
of Victorian parlour nonsense that
Yeah.
that we rather like.
Yes.
Take it away.
Sung by an expert on such things. So it's a kind of uncharacteristically jolly piece of folk nonsense, but has got a chorus.
And one of the things I like about it is that these are a sober pair of young people who are saving up to get married.
Yes,
There
that's
we
right. Yeah, yeah. So the chorus is it's called "Down in Our Village," and the chorus is "Down, down in our village," twice, and then repeat the last line of the verse and "Down, down in our village" again. So it's pretty straightforward. So I'm expecting you up to speed. When first I was a shepherd boy, can I forget never my simple songs I sung with joy in rustic strain so clever. Then work was done all clean and neat, from sowing, plough and tillage. I meet with lads and lasses meet down, down in our village. Down, down in our village. Down, down in our village. I meet with lads and lasses meet down, down in our village. 'Twas on the green where they all dance I first beheld my Fanny. She looked so nice when she advanced, not half so well, not any. So when next day the work began at sowing, plough and tillage, I thought of naught but little Fan down, down in our village. Down, down in our village. Down, down in our village. I thought of naught but little Fan down, down in our village. Me dad and mam cried fie for shame, laugh and joke and jeer me, 'cause I'm so young, think I'm to blame, from Fanny want to tear me. But lads and lasses, dad and mam, sowing, plough and tillage, I'd give up all for charming Fan down, down in our village. Down, down in our village, down, down in our village. I'd give up all for charming Fan down, down in our village. But I don't mean to leave my home, nor Fanny yet to marry, till money we've both saved a sum, we're both content to tarry. Oh, then the village bell shall ring, no sowing, plough or tillage, but Fan will dance and I will sing down, down in our village. Down, down in our village, down, down in our village, but Fan will dance and I will sing down, down in our village. Down in our village, there you are.
And we don't think there are very many rhymes for village. There's obviously tillage, pillage.
Chemical spillage and rape and pillage. Well, we don't want any of that down in our village, do we? No,
So
definitely not.
Mr. Harris, by the way, sang All Around Our Hat. He just sang the chorus of it, and that's the tune that. There was a folk group, wasn't there? Yeah, somebody did it. Yeah.
I think they were called the Spanners.
Something like that.
Either that or, somewhere between those two.
Right. And, so almost all the songs he heard were variations and different versions of songs that existed elsewhere, often already in songbooks. And Vaughan Williams had an enormous collection of broadsides. So he was often familiar with the song, but what he was interested in was beautiful tunes. But he already knew the words. He would make notes where people sang versions that were somewhat different from the version that was already known. It was also the case that other people supplied him with the words. The Heatley sisters, Georgina and her sister Florence, wrote out lots of the words, and you can tell because it's in their handwriting. But you have to think, if he's collecting, something like 14 songs on one day, to actually write out the words, which would require the singer to go over the song a number of times, it's not really feasible. So I think this idea that he wasn't interested in the words is a mistake. Taking down the words was really too problematical, especially as he had other sources often for the words. I think we've dealt with that one, haven't we? Because he did. He wrote arrangements for songs. He did choral pieces. He wasn't uninterested in words. That's all I want to say.
He married a poet as well, didn't he?
He married a poet. At the same time. Yeah. This one, the Three Butchers. Now, hang on. Who sang the Three Butchers? I think Mr. Punt. Yes, there we are, Mr. Punt. And Mr. Punt was one of a group of singers that he met in the Old Dog in East Horndon. And he sang the Three Butchers. But this version of the Three Butchers, which is fairly similar and we think it's got a slightly better tune, is actually from William Herr of Southwold. And I knew a version of this song, an American version of this song, before I ever came across this, that was called Dickie and Johnson. And this tune is slightly more like the American one, but that's a detail we needn't go into. So, a very old song, and slightly puzzling to me. Butchers? Why butchers? I don't get the butchers. And there is one version where they seem to have stolen the money in the first place, but not in this one. The American version, they're cowboys, and there's no explanation of what they're doing, except that they've gone for a ride with a lot of money, you know, as you do. So, but the verse about the woman, the naked woman with a hair pinned to the ground, crops up in every version of this. It's such a striking image that one sticks. Other details vary, but not that. So, it was Ibsen, Gibson, Johnson, as I've heard many say. They took 5,000 guineas all on one market day, as they rode over Northumberland as hard as they could ride. Oh, stop your horse, said Johnson, I heard a woman cry. So Johnson, he got off his horse, and he viewed the fields all round. He spied a naked woman with a hairpin to the ground. How came you here, cried Johnson, how came you here, cried he? 2 highwaymen have robbed me, as you may plainly see. Now Johnson, being a valiant man, a man of courage bold, he took the coat from off his back to keep her from the cold. And Johnson, being a valiant man, a man of valiant mind, he sat her up upon his horse, and he mounted up behind. And as they rode along the way, as hard as they could ride, she put her fingers to her lips and gave 3 piercing cries. And then there came 10 swaggering blades with weapons in their hands, came riding after Johnson and boldly made him stand. Now Johnson drew his glittering blade with all his might and main. He fought those robbing highwaymen till 8 of them were slain. And as he fought the other 2, the woman he did not mind. She took the knife all from his side and stabbed him from behind. But the day it been a market day, and people passing by, they saw this woman's dreadful deed and raised the hue and cry. You shall be hanged in chains of gold for the murder you have done, for you've killed the finest butcher that ever the sun shone on. Vaughan Williams talked about folk song having deep roots and many branches, and the fact that this song turns up in such a similar structure in America, is I think it illustrates that a good story, and these are all stories really, aren't they? A good story will travel, as do the tunes. He made a couple of visits to the old dog in East Horndon, and he collected songs from Mr. Peacock, Mr. Punt, Mr. Kemp, and Mr. Ellis. don't know Mr. Peacock's first name, but they were James Punt, Joseph Kemp and Thomas Ellis. And they lived in a row of houses at the side of the pub, which has since been demolished and appear to be a car park.
The pub's still there.
The pub's still there.
It's still open.
Yeah, it's the only one of the pubs that he visited, which is still a pub. Vaughan Williams referred to the sitting in a pub with men with the wisdom of years and a pint of 4 ale, and we can appreciate that.
Yeah.
Mr. Bloomfield sang Mr. Bloomfield, who sang in the Cricketers, sang a version of this song in a minor key, and that was published in the Folk Song Journal. This version, which Adrian is about to sing, is in a major key and was not in Folk Song Journal.
Yeah.
So there you go.
We have sung this in the Old Dog Line.
We have, yeah.
In fact, yeah. Yeah, it's called New Garden Fields, and
I'm just pointing.
my guess is that it dates from kind of 18th century pleasure gardens when they became a big thing in London. So it seems to be likely that it was from that period. It did originally have a couple of verses that seemed to me to have been tagged on the end, which were a happy ending, but I knew you wouldn't like that, so I edited those out. So it just ends in misery, as folk songs should. So yeah, New Garden Fields. Come all you pretty fair maids, I pray you now attend unto these few lines I am just going to pen. Unto these few lines I am just going to write. She's my study by day and my dreams all the night. She's my study by day and my dreams all the night. On the 17th day of the 8th month of the year, down the New Garden Fields where I first met my dear, she appeared like some goddess or some young divine, and she came like a tormented So grant me this favour, and I'll ask for no more. And she turned and said, young man, I fear you must jest. If I thought you were in earnest, I'd think myself blessed. But my father in his coming round, and this she did say. So it's farewell, you young man, for I must away. Oh, it's farewell, you young man, for I must away. So now she's gone and left me, all in the bonds of love. Kind Cupid, protect me, and all powers above. Kind Cupid, protect me, and please take my heart, for she's guilty of murder, and quite broke my heart. Oh, she's guilty of murder, and quite broke my heart.
I'm sorry, I forgot to sing there. I just realised we are going to overrun. So I don't know how people feel about that.
Just carry on.
Well, just
Carry on regardless.
Yeah, all right. So they can they'll leave when they've had
It
enough.
took us quite a while to get here, so
Yeah.
stopping now.
Okay. We mentioned Mrs. Humphreys before. That was the first song we did. The first note that Georgina Heatley passed to Vaughan Williams during the Oxford University Extension lectures on the history of folk song referred to Mrs. Humphreys and had a list of the songs that she sang, so that when the meeting was all arranged by Georgina Heatley. So when he came to see her in April, she sang a number of notable songs to him, including The Saucy Sailor, which went into the Folk Song Journal and was recorded by, what was that group again? Who recorded, anyway.
Spanners.
Yes. And
Spinners.
the Steelworkers was I can't remember now. And a very complete version of the cambric shirt. I won't go into the history of the cambric shirt, we haven't got time. Okay. And she seemed to like songs about courtship, where people argue in courtship. And this one, Tarry Trousers, is such an unusual song, such an unusual tune. And what she's done is she's taken a song where it's basically the boastful sailor saying, this girl is so besotted with me that she will follow me anywhere. And she turns this into a mother-daughter debate in which the sailor becomes, an incidental player. Economical use of narrative I've written down here. Right, there we go. So.
Are you ready?
Yes. just in case I get confused. I should say that this is one that isn't a story, and so quite how you put the verses together, we messed about with the order a lot, and so I forget what order they're in, of what order we agreed on in the end. There we go.
Oh, here it goes.
As I walked out one bright summer's morning, the morning being fine and clear, there I heard a tender mother talking to her daughter dear. Daughter, daughter, I'd have you to marry, live no longer a single life. But she says, mother, I'd rather tarry, I'd rather wait for my sailor bold. I know you would have me wed with a sailor. Sorry, it's important to get the right words. I know you would have me wed with a farmer and not give me my heart's delight, but give me the lad with the tarry trousers that shine to me like diamonds bright. But sailors, they are given to roving, into foreign parts they go, then they'll leave you broken-hearted, then they'll prove your overthrow. I know you would have me wed with a farmer and not give me my heart's delight, but give me the lad with the tarry trousers that shine to me like diamonds bright. Don't you hear the great guns rattle and the small ones make a noise? When he's in the height of battle, how can he tend to you, my dear? Come all young maidens, pray give attention, if the sailor is your delight. Don't be forced to wed with another for all the gold and silver bright. My mother wants me to wed with a farmer and not give me my heart's delight, but give me the lad with the tarry trousers that shine to me like diamonds bright. How are we doing?
Just one more maybe? How many have you got?
We've got three.
We've got three.
We've got three more.
What should we do?
What shall we drop Jackie Robinson?
Do we
need to do two then?
do a couple? Yeah.
Do a
Yeah,
couple.
Sweet William and then
What?
Yeah.
Which one?
Do
Sweet.
Sweet William.
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. Yeah.
You mean I've put this harmonica harness on for nothing?
That's right.
We'll have to work hard to get an encore now.
Don't be silly. Don't be silly. Now, Sweet William. Now, the thing is, it's very naughty. This was not collected by Vaughan Williams. He called, having his experience in Ingrave was, my God, there is so much here. He would go out and in one day's collecting, he gets, a couple of songs for the Folk Song Journal, a couple of tunes for the New English Hymnal, and a couple of tunes that he puts in the Fen Country, or the Folk Song Suite or something. I mean, the stuff was tumbling at him, and he called for a national system of collecting folk songs, and that didn't happen. So, but what we've got is that he obviously wasn't the only person collecting. In Thaxted, there was a chap called Clive Carey. He lived there from 1910 to 1911. He was part of the circle in London that was involved with Esperance Morris. He was instrumental in bringing the Morris to Thaxted, but he also collected songs in Thaxted. There was also a chap called No, we'll leave him out. So, Sweet William was collected from Fred Yeldon of Faxted by Clive Carey. It was early, early, all in the spring, when my true love went to serve the king. The night was dark and the wind blew high, that parted me and my sailor boy. Oh, Father, Father, build me a boat, that across the ocean I may float, and every kingship that I pass by, I will inquire for my sailor boy. She had not sailed far across the deep, before a kingship she chanced to meet. Oh, Captain, Captain, come tell me true, does my sweet William sail among your crew? What clothing does your true love wear? What colour is your true love's hair? His jacket's blue and his trousers white, his curly hair is as black as night. Oh, no, fair lady, he is not here, for he's been drowned, we greatly fear. For 'twas on Greenland as we passed by, that's where we lost your young sailor boy. She wrung her hands and she tore her hair, just like a maiden in great despair. Her little boat 'gainst the rock she's run, how can I live now my William's gone? Okay, so now we're going to do our last song here. This was collected from Mr. Bloomfield, who I mentioned before, Jim Bloomfield, who sang in the Cricketers. He was a man. He was described by Vaughan Williams as a big man with a long reach. He had a grey beard and was known to go on for hours when well primed. And I think we've all met people.
Not looking at anyone in
No,
particular.
the most apparently, people who know about these things, most versions of Van Diemen's Land are in a minor key. Mr. Bloomfield sang this one in a major key, and it's such a stonking good song. It's the anguish in this song is what we want to leave you with. Come all you gallant poachers that ramble void of care, while walking out one moonlit night with dog and gun and snare, with your hares and lofty pheasants you have at your command, not thinking of the hardships here upon Van Diemen's Land. It's poor Tom Brown from Nottingham, Jack Williams and poor Joe. They were three daring poachers the country well did know. One night they were are trepaned by the keepers out of hand. 14 years transported boys unto Van Diemen's land. The very day we landed upon that fateful shore, the planters stood around us for 20 score or more. They ranked us up like horses, they sold us out of hand. They yoked us to the plough, brave boys, to plough Van Diemen's land. The cottage that we lived in was built of clods of clay. We had rotten straw for bedding, and we dared not say nay. Our cots were fenced with fire, we slumber when we can, to drive away the wolves and tigers from Van Diemen's land. From Birmingham, Susan Summers was her name. She was 14 years transported, you all have heard the same. Our planter bought her freedom, he married her out of hand. She gave to us good usage, boys, upon Van Diemen's land. It's sometimes when I'm slumbering, I have a pleasant dream. With my pretty girl I'm roving, bound by a sparkling stream. In England I'm a-roving, with her at my command. But I wake up broken-hearted upon Van Diemen's land. God bless our wives and families, likewise that happy shore, that isle of sweet contentment that we shall see no more. As for the wretched females, we see them when we can. There's 20 men to one of them upon Van Diemen's land. Come all you gallant poachers, give hearing to my song. It is a bit of good advice, although it is not long. Lay aside your dogs and guns and